What is up, friends? So today I want to switch up the video I'm gonna make, and I'm realizing I want to focus more on things I feel a lot more comfortable talking about and teaching through experience. And a lot of that has to do with brick and mortar gym businesses. So if this is the first time you're watching, my name is Nick. I own a brick and mortar fitness studio. We've had amazing growth over the past 16 months. We've grown now by almost 400%. I'm not gonna get into numbers, but we are approaching 400 members. And really, I have learned so much in the past 6 years doing a lot, which I'll probably make a video about my story and how I got to where we are today and what we continue to do as I document this process. But I'm gonna make a ton of videos on a lot of things regarding the gym business, the fitness studio business, and overall the health and wellness space, and for what I see as someone who I do believe I have a little more knowledge than maybe the average person. So in this video, I wanna talk about breaking down the gym business. So specifically, I want to talk about all the variety of what it means to own a quote gym. Because if someone says to you, I own a gym, you have a thought in your mind of what that means. Typically when someone says, I own a gym, you immediately think box gym. So that's the first thing I've written on my whiteboard is box gym. So a box gym, to categorize it, is a facility that is usually very large, upwards of 10,000 to 30,000 square feet. This is where there is a boatload of equipment, cardio equipment, machines, free weights, racks, platforms, and then they have their locker room, sauna, right, the spa, all that stuff. And the most common and most popular box gyms is Planet Fitness, Crunch Fitness, LA Fitness, right? Those are the franchises that are very well known, right? There's also 24-hour fitness, Anytime Fitness, the list goes on, Retro Fitness, right? But then people have started their own private businesses. Now, private meaning not that it's private, but it's a privately owned business. So in our area, right, we have South Shore Iron, which is my buddy Vince's private gym. You have Unique Fitness, right? They own 3 locations here on Long Island. There's Results Gym. I think they're located in East Islip. And that is where a person said, I want to start a gym, and they went and pursued and started their own facility. So I'm not going to go right now into the pros and cons of going private or franchise. I'll actually make another video on that, in my opinion and what I've seen. But typically in the box world, if you are someone who says, I want to start a gym, a box gym, there is a lot of upfront cost that goes into those businesses, because you gotta rent and find the space, you gotta build it all out, you gotta buy all the equipment, and typically you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get your foot in the door. But from an operational standpoint, if you have the right systems in place, it's actually a pretty simple business to run if you're only focusing on just getting people in the door and buying a membership that is less than $50 per month, right? But then you have categories where you can make additional revenue, where you can sell smoothies, you can sell merchandise, and then the box gyms typically get into personal training and things like that. So that is the first category of what a gym, and what people think when you hear I own a gym or we are a gym. That is typically where people go, is box gym, okay? Now, going to number 2 is studio, boutique type of gyms. So this is where it's more classified and there's more specific, because there's a variety of these. So going into it, right, when someone typically says, oh, I own a fitness studio, or I own a boutique fitness studio, or a boutique even gym, this is where it's a more higher end service that typically costs more money, and there's less members actually in that facility, and it's a much smaller facility. So typically you'll see facilities as small as 1,800 square feet, upwards of 10,000 square feet, typically not that big. Usually it's on the smaller end. So with that, right, the first thing you have is like martial arts studios, right? So those are your karate, your Muay Thai, your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and typically martial arts studios might have multiple actual services within that, or they have one main one they go to, or it's just a Muay Thai gym, right? Shout out to my friends at MTK, LA in California. They are one of the biggest and badass gyms out there. And they specifically just focus on Muay Thai. Then you have aside from that, that is a large group, right? Usually it's a 1 on 20 or 30 or 40. And that is something where I own a large group fitness training studio. So we focus on, it's typically, when you have a privately owned fitness studio, you usually have your own creative type of workout. Typically they're HIIT strength training style of workouts. That's very similar to like CrossFit. That's very similar to a cycle studio. That's very similar to a Pilates or bar, right? There's Pure Barre, there's Barre 3, there's Club Pilates, right? The list goes on and on. And again, this is a service that is usually upwards of $125 to $200 per month, and you're usually booking yourself for a class of one instructor or trainer or coach, whatever you call it, and you have 15 upwards of 30, 40 people. Kickboxing's one I didn't write down, right? Kickboxing, you got Rumble and things like that. So the studio space is where it's typically larger group, but then you have studios that focus on small group, semi-private. So what is a semi-private? That is a 1 on 4 or typically a 1 on 6. So what that means is you're essentially providing more value because now you're strictly only having 6 people in a group, and you essentially can train them all at the same time, and they might be doing different things depending on the program they're on. So a great example of a 1 on 6, this is executed by the franchise called Alloy Personal Training, where it is a 1 on 6 semi-private. So now this category is actually a bit higher price point. You can charge upwards of $300, $400, $500, $600 a month, because essentially you're providing more value. You can't handle as much clients as a large group fitness studio or a CrossFit or martial arts gym, right? And people will pay more because they're getting more value on a 1 on 6 out of the trainers. And that is where you consider a semi-private small group. Usually small group does not go over 8 people, because then people will just call that's a class. But then that is where you can own a studio, but it focuses on semi-private. And at that point, you typically can have anywhere from 90 to 150 members and be profitable. For studios, you typically want to be upwards of 300 to 500 members, depending on your operation costs, staffing, how it goes about, and things like that. Then the last but not least is where I actually started, was a personal training business, right? A facility that you essentially have to train your one-on-one personal training clients, and if you get enough clients, you will maybe hire other trainers to help you train your one-on-one clients. There's a ton of these. They're usually not that big. One near us that I know of that does very well is One Body, One Mind. Again, it's specifically just a one-on-one personal training. I know most of the gyms probably do other stuff too, but personal training, that is typically where someone who has a following or wants to start their own thing, they even start it out of their garage and they do one-on-ones, right? And you're charging $50, $60, $75, $100 per session. So again, you really can't take on that many clients, but you are servicing at a higher value. And if you're the owner, you're typically one person doing everything essentially. And there are gyms that do specialize in just personal training, and there are personal training gyms. So it's privately owned. It is you coming in to meet your trainer, and overall, it's very simple, to the point, and that's where personal training comes into play. So, and then also boxing, right? There's boxing gyms. So in the fitness space specifically, this is pretty much the criteria of what it looks like, right? You got fitness, you got big box gyms, right? You got fitness studios, large, one-on-many, right? Large group. Then you got your semi-private boutique studios, and then you can do your one-on-one private trainings, right? Then you actually have a category of what you would call, and again, someone wouldn't say they own a gym when they do this, but it's online training, right? Online training is essentially when a trainer trains their clients online and they do virtual meetings, things like that. They own their business, but they would own an online training business. They wouldn't say they own a gym. So going back to the gyms, there is a lot that goes into gyms, and a lot of what you see out there is, and what you'll notice is, not many gyms focus on one thing. They try to do 4 or 5 different things. So you do have box gyms that offer personal training, have classes, offer and multiple types of classes, right? And sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't. I think the biggest area I see, especially in when it comes to studios, is you have a studio that again tries to mimic that concept, but realizing that they really should just focus on one. And what you discover is when you look at more of the franchises, they only do one thing, right? Typically the track to get to $1 million in top line revenue in this industry is one product, one client avatar, one service market, right? And that is where we were able to see a large scale of success when we focused on one thing, and that was a large group. Because prior to me focusing on that, we did one-on-one training, we did large group training, and then we did nutrition stuff. We had 3 essentially businesses in one, just to not make any money at all, right? So, and again, there'll be more videos on that. So I don't want to keep this too long, but this is a breakdown of what it means to own a gym and the different styles there are. So hopefully this helps. If you're ever confused or considering getting to the industry, I'm gonna be making videos on all of this stuff, and I really do wanna go into more of the details of each one, where I can actually categorize it just as box, studio, small group, and personal training, and what it looks like from a scaling standpoint, what it looks like from an operations and cost standpoint, and the complexity and the profits and all that goody detail business stuff. So if you like this video and you're looking for more, please like, subscribe, and comment. And I'm excited. I love this stuff, and because I feel like I do have a lot of gym owner friends or people that maybe are considering it. And I've talked to gym owners and teach a lot of stuff that way. And I have a bunch of friends that we just help each other in the gym space, so it's cool. I'd love to get this information out there. So like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the other video.